It's spring and it's time to look at the batteries for the boat and get ready to put them in. These were charged and stored in the garage, and I just put the charger back on them for, it only took a few minutes, and they said they were topped up. These are lead acid batteries, storage batteries, the deep cycle ones. And I'm just looking at this one. I'm seeing 12.6, and you'll take my word for it if you can't see it there, 12.6. So both about the same. 12.6, if I look at a chart, 12.6 is somewhere around 75% state of charge, and it depends, that would be for a new battery. These have been used one season. Last year they were used. This one was actually this one was bought last year in May, and this one was actually bought December 2019, and it sat for a while till the boat was finished, the rework and renovations on the boat. But this is 100 amp hour, bought off Amazon, or whatever, random. You take your chances where you look at the reviews and buy something. This one was bought at Menards, and it does not give a capacity. That's 100 amp hour. This one I'm estimating based on the weight and the size. This is like 66 pounds or something, and this one's more like 55 pounds. So maybe it's 85, maybe it's 90 amp hour. So they're fine batteries. What we found was with a refrigerator running overnight in the boat, and sometimes an electric fan if it was hot, I didn't like how dangerously low the voltage was getting after. They just didn't have enough capacity to keep the fridge going, especially if, let's say, the day had been a little cloudy and the 200 watts of solar power we hadn't quite topped them up, and kept up. So I've been thinking about replacing them, trying to get some more capacity. The one thing is, these lead acid batteries, you really don't want to go past 50% capacity in draining them, otherwise you'll shorten the life of them. And so I chose something else. I thought I'd get some lithium iron phosphate batteries. I got two of them. This is not an advertisement. You take your risk buying whatever you want. This is from Amazon Canada. These were about 400 Canadian each, with a 4% discount for buying more than one. The company, if you care to look at them, I don't know. There's Fly Power is one name, but they also market under FLLY, like Fly Rower. They had reasonably good comments, and they were an Amazon choice. So I said, I'll risk it. I'll buy them. These advantages of the lithium ion is you can drop it down to 20% and then recharge, 20% recharge, and you can do that for thousands of times, as opposed to, let's say you get 600 cycles out of these, or 700. Here you get 5,000, 6,000, maybe 7,000, as long as nothing goes wrong with the internals. There's a significant difference in the voltage characteristics between a lead acid battery, which I'm going to show in red, and a lithium iron phosphate battery that I'll show in green. What we have here is charge capacity. So you can think of this line right here, that's 100% charged. And then you check a battery that's half charged at 50%. We'll read what the voltage is up here, and then 20%, and then 0. So batteries are nominally 12. We talk about 12 volt batteries. And in both cases, we talk about nominal 12 volt batteries. But the voltages vary over the time that they discharge. Typically, a lead acid battery here is a brand new one, fully charged, starts at about 12.9 volts. And as it is discharged, it runs down like so, such that by the time you get to 50%, I believe that's 12.2 volts at 50% charge. And that is the point at which, if you want your battery to last, you never run your lead acid battery lower than 50%. So right here, if you're using this in your houseboat or your RV, or for whatever, some kind of solar system you have, maybe a pump for your sump pump, a backup sump pump, you should have enough battery such that you can, enough battery capacity that you can get it charged. You know, don't go beyond 50%, but be able to get it charged before you put it back in service. So if you've got a backup sump pump and you think you're going to need a certain length of time of running, it might mean that you need 2 batteries instead of 1, or the same on your boat. And that's what I did. Was I started out with 1 battery and I found that wasn't enough, and then I got 2. And what I found was that overnight with the refrigerator and so on, I would run down below, this is 12.2 volts. I was running down to 12, and I said, oh, I'm a little scared about that. 12 is actually 30%. So I started to reduce the life of my batteries. Like, they're not going to last as long. They won't last, say, 600 cycles. Maybe I'll only get 300 of them or 400. So that's one of the reasons that I thought, or I considered going to a lithium battery. But here, I didn't draw on the rest of the curve. Maybe you can't see the little red dots I'm following, but that's what happens. So you start at 12.9, you get down to 12.2, you should be charging your battery back up and just using it in this range. Run it down, charge it, run it down, charge it, and you'll get your 600 cycles or whatever your battery manufacturer says. The storage batteries, they are made to run moderate loads and give you that life. But starting batteries in a car are not necessarily the same. They are designed to give you a really short, 20 seconds of high load and then recover. But they never get, when they're doing that, they never get beyond that. I will get on to the lithium battery. Lithium battery is different. This lithium phosphate battery, that is, there are different kinds of lithium batteries. When you put a charger on it, they are different chargers. They control them, they shut themselves off differently, they control themselves differently. My charger is a nominal 14.5, and it gets you a charge anywhere. I had battery full charge, one of them charged to 14.7, the other was just to high, like 13.9 or so. But essentially, this whole range right here from 14.6 down to 13.6 or so is 100%. 99% capacity is just down about 13.5 or so. And you start at that 13.5 or 13.4, and I think it's 13.4, and you just track across. It's pretty flat. It's pretty flat. It's pretty flat. You get to 50% capacity, you're still above 13. You get to 30% capacity, you're at 13 volts. You finally get to 20% capacity, you're at 11.9. That is your point where you should recharge it. And when you recharge it, it'll charge to somewhere in that range. You put the load on it, it'll immediately get down to the 13.5 area or range, or some say 13.2 under a load. Depends on what kind of load you put on it, what voltage it actually runs at. But it's voltage when you check it, when it's at rest, it will follow this curve. And what happens after 20, you start getting into damage. And it drops, and this is the characteristic. So at 10 volts, if it says 10 volts, you've got nothing. If it says, I forget what the numbers are, 11, then you're 11 volts and you're practically nothing. You're a few percent. So that is the characteristic. You do need a special charger for this. If you took a regular 12-volt charger and tried to charge this battery, the 12-volt charger actually puts 13 point something into it. Maybe it's regulated up to 14. It'll give you a charge, but it might not shut off at the appropriate time as it's charging. When it gets to here, it'll keep trying to put the 14 volts or whatever your 12-volt charger runs at. It won't necessarily shut off when it should, and that might not be healthy. I don't pretend to understand everything about that. There are some things I have to read up on, but be aware that they are different, and be aware also that if you have a solar system, your charge controller has to be set for this type of battery as opposed to that. You want the optimal performance. Maybe you won't get the same 100% charge out of it possibly, or there's possible that you could do some damage too. So that is something to consider. It has some features. Here's a charging port. I intend to, in the boat, just leave the charger that came with each battery, dedicated charger for lithium iron phosphate. It's an intelligent charger, but it screws in with a military connector. So I'll leave that hooked on so that whenever we're connected to shore power, I can charge and they'll each individually charge. There is a button here. Sorry, that was left on. The button on off, all it does is control this USB port, but that'll be hidden away in the battery box. We won't be using that. It has the, I think they're M8, whatever, terminals on them, and I'll be able to drop these into the battery boxes I have. These are about the same size. Actually, this is slightly longer. I think there's room in the battery box. If not, I'll have to get new battery boxes. Here's something that I couldn't do before with the lead acid batteries. They are a lot lighter. We'll get those installed. This is one of my battery boxes for the house batteries, and it fits. It's the appropriate size. That's good. There's a little bit of a gap here. This comes with the battery box with a spacer. That'll secure it from rattling that way. This way, I want to make sure that the USB outlet there and the charge port, which I have to get that plastic cap put back on, but I have to make sure it's protected. So I've got a piece of rubber. It's just the right size, and that will capture the battery back and forth there. I chose not to cut a hole here for the charge port, so I was originally going to charge each battery individually with the charger that came with the battery. But since the two batteries, house batteries, will be in parallel, the solar cell up top of this roof, its charge controller right here charges both batteries in parallel anyhow. So I'm not worried about if we plug into house power and I need to top up the batteries for whatever reason. I don't mind using this, which I've got semi-permanently installed in the boat. It's a smart charger. It should detect that they are lithium batteries. I'm going to verify that. I've got it such that I plug it into a cigarette lighter outlet, and that's how it plugs into 110. But I've got a cigarette lighter outlet that I plug it into, and it goes back into the system and would help bring the batteries up. That is, if the solar chargers weren't doing the job, or if I had the boat here in the barn, you know. Batteries are installed. We have 13.6 volts, and we got a few watts of power here. We've got some radio on, some lights and things. And yeah, if you can see, it's a little dark here, but here are the two batteries installed. And that's dark. There's that one. This one's not in its final position yet, but it'll be back in there on a bit of a stand. So I'm happy with that. The only thing I am concerned about, and I have to look up on this, this is supposed to be a blue light for lithium batteries. This is the solar charge controller. It's indicating green for a sealed cell. So we'll see. Maybe the solar cell actually has to be actively attempting to charge for it to make that determination. I do not know. We will find out. We'll have to go get the GPS out, and we're going to do something, check some maps. Yeah, electrics work.